Hi, guys. Welcome to Chasing Mastery, Ep.5. Today I have Tyler Carlson, the CEO of Carlson & Co. Real Estate.
What's up, dude?
With Synergy Properties. Dude, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, rock and roll. Let's get into it.
All right. So, first question is, what brought you into the real estate world?
Interesting. Honestly, I'll be very direct. I before getting into real estate, I did all sorts of things. I mean, I was honestly growing up. I was kind of like entitled, not because like I grew up like especially wealthy or anything. Just had never been in a position where there was a whole lot of consequences for being unwilling to put in the time, take the responsibility of for myself or my income or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then obviously that type of attitude is going to flunk you out of college real quick. And I didn't have a whole lot of places to turn to. So a buddy of mine had been in the oil field after I went to college for a year, and a buddy of mine went, he took a different route, went straight to the oil field and came back. He was my best friend. And he's like, dude, it's like raining gold over here. And this was 2009, 2010, somewhere in there. And he was right. I mean, at that time, it was raining gold.
Yeah.
And so I remember I went over to North Dakota on the train with about $50 in my pocket. And no one was going to help bail me out of that sort of situation. You know what I mean? So I got over there, and luckily I already knew somebody there, so we drove around. We just drove. If you can imagine, the Bakken, North Dakota is just this flat kind of plain as far as the eye can see. And every, whatever amount of miles, you see a drilling rig kind of poking up over the horizon. And I got my first job in the oil field just driving rig to rig to rig, asking if they needed help, if they needed a hand. Got turned down a bunch. And finally, a guy gave me a shot because they only had a couple holes left to drill. And they were short. It was this mom and pop company, zero safety. It was a wild experience for your first time. It was like It was old school. They did things the way that nobody's done them for 20 years.
Yeah, way back.
Yeah. And it was eye opening. It was eye opening. It's one of those moments, those experiences that you kind of look back and you realize was a turning point, right? And so I worked at this company for a while, and now I have some experience, and I was able to get on with one of the bigger drillers in the country, actually in the world, and continued to work drilling rigs for about 5.5 years, something like that. And for a while, that's what I thought I was going to do. Because I was a kid.
Work in the oil field?
Yeah, because I was a kid, and I thought it was great money at the time. You're working 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. You get paid pretty well, $120,000 a year at 20 years old for working 2 weeks on and 2 weeks off, 6 months out of the year. It's pretty great.
Yeah, that sounds like great money for, most people out there fresh out of college, fresh out of high school. That's really good money.
Sure. Everybody thinks it's pretty good money until you do it.
Yeah.
until you decide, hey, I need to start a family.
Yeah.
Hey, we need to pay for things. I want to buy a house. I want to have a car. You start thinking about your future and your ability to actually build a life. And at one point, I kind of looked around to the people, and you get really tight knit. And in that sort of situation, your crew is like your family, right? You spend more time with them than you do your family. You are living together on site. You're eating your meals together. You're working your ass off together. The work that those men put in on a day-to-day basis is, I think for most people especially in the US would be shocking. I think they would be blown away at just like how much blood, sweat, and tears on a daily basis these guys are putting out.
How many hours would you do per day?
12s.
12s?
So you work 14 12s in a row, and then you go home. So you work 14 12-hour days of day shift. You go home for 2 weeks, and you come back, you work 14 12s of night shift. And it's kind of this rotation.
Yeah.
Or days, nights, days, nights. Unless you're moving the rig to another location or another hole, then the two crews come together and they both work days. And anyway, I start looking around and I realize that kind of lifestyle kills any chance of stability in a family. These guys they're not just sacrificing their time and energy, their bodies. They're making massive sacrifices in their home life, right? They're away from home for massive amounts of time. They're making stable income, but travel's expensive. Living in two places is expensive. Right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Doing that whole thing, traveling.
All the bills at home, all the bills from traveling, moving from place to place. Were
Right.
you in hotels all the time?
No, you live on the rig.
Oh, okay.
So you actually live on site. They bring in a little bunk bed, and you guys share it's like the side the bunkhouse fits on the back of a semi, and so it'll have
gotcha.
two bedrooms with like 3 bunk beds on each side, and then a bathroom and a shared kitchen living area, and you just move that around with the rig.
Nice.
And everybody, most guys are on their second, third, fourth marriage and don't have great relationships with their kids. And this isn't to downplay or talk bad about those people, because it's a sacrifice that they are making. Nobody goes into that sort of situation and says, "This is, what I think or what I want my life to look like, or my relationships to look like."
Yeah.
It's just very hard, not just on them, but on their families, on their wives. It's hard on their kids. It's a tough life to live long term, and it doesn't change as you go up in position. The rotations stay the same. So maybe you're not, eventually not putting in the labor that you always were. You're still putting in the time. You're still putting in the hours. You're still putting in the distance. And I knew I wanted to start a family. And so I extremely fortunate. I'd learned a lot. My work ethic comes from that time in my life. A lot of my views in the world were shaped in that time of my life. And I come back and I was very fortunate that a friend of mine that I'd grown up with had started building his own kind of real estate investor-focused business. At that point, he was about 3 years in, and at that point, he was really starting to hit a good flow of business around wholesaling and flipping houses. And he still runs a huge operation to this day. Danny O'Bannon is somebody who I've always looked up to and really introduced me to real estate as a whole. And so I started, I worked with him for about a year and really fell in love with the reality that real estate is so multifaceted. There's opportunity everywhere you look if you're willing to be creative and you're willing to realize that real estate is kind of like a puzzle, right? And as long as you can find a way to put the pieces together in the right, it's like Tetris.
Yeah.
As long as you can figure out the best, most efficient way to put the pieces together, there's always a way to accomplish your goal. There's always a way to create value, not just for yourself, but the other people that you're partnering with. And I guess from there, I joined a residential real estate team because I wanted to understand the retail side of things. And again, somebody, and if you look back in my life, and I do this often, you'll see moments in time where somebody gave me an opportunity, became a mentor in my life, and um, helped me grow as a person, helped me grow as a man, and helped me shape into the person I am today in the organization that I run. And that's another one of those moments. I learned a lot about what it looks like to run a business um, within the real estate industry, as well as what it looks like to be a good leader, and what it looks like to not be a good leader. And after a few years of that, my wife and I, who we had gotten married in the meantime, and she had gotten into real estate, decided that we looked around and said, most people are in the same boat that we're in right now, where they are pushing themselves, they're working hard all day, and they get home from work and they pick their kids up from daycare, hopefully on time, probably 10 minutes late, and then they, rush home at like 6 o'clock at night and hopefully get dinner made and everybody fed before 8, hopefully get everybody in bed before 9:30 or 10. And then it's the end of the day, maybe they like have a little bit of time to themselves, but at that point they're so exhausted that they don't have it in them, either the time or the energy or the money, to start to chip away and invest in themselves, invest in their families, invest in their future. And they're just, we feel like there had to be a better way.
Yeah.
We wanted to build an organization where people could truly earn their time back, and they could do that by creating enough income in their lives to invest in themselves and to invest in the legacy that every single person on this planet wants to create for their family.
Yeah.
And that's what we've been doing. And it's
That's
funny,
awesome.
you start a business and you always start a business to create opportunity and stability for yourself, right? Like that's what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
Is create this organization that helps me have financial stability, helps me create opportunities for my family and my children. And then as you march forward in that quest, you realize in order to do that, I need people. I need relationships that are going to help me work towards that.
Yeah.
That are going to help me put that together. And then so you find the right people and you surround yourself with the right relationships that are going to help you move forward in that. And pretty soon you realize that these people that are helping me build my life also have goals, also have priorities. And if I'm going to be in a relationship with them, it's my responsibility to also make sure that whatever it is we're building, whatever it is we're doing, it's big enough, powerful enough, and has enough capacity that they are capable of reaching their potential too. And so what do? Add more people so that they can reach up. And now what do we have to do? Add more people so they can reach up. And it starts to become this process where you grow by necessity so that you have the capacity to lift up the people around you who are lifting you up in the first place. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's awesome. I think you guys have done an amazing job about doing that too. Like your leadership style is phenomenal. Like you're one of those people who really do lead from the front. Like I don't think there are a lot of people out there who do truly lead from the front.
I appreciate it, man. It's Leadership is one of those things that never, like, you don't ever stop learning how to be a leader.
Yeah.
And you don't ever get an opportunity to say, yes, I understand what it is to be a leader. It changes and it evolves. And one of the best things that I think we can do as people is encourage the other people around us to tap in and find opportunities for themselves to grow as leaders in their own lives. The world needs more leaders.
Yeah.
If there was one thing that we could do that would change the direction in a positive way for our country as a whole, it would be to focus on building more leaders in our communities, in our schools, in our workplaces, in our families.
Have you read Extreme Ownership or The Talent War?
Yeah.
Those two books are phenomenal on that. If any of you guys want to read up more on that, Jocko Willink, and I forget who wrote The Talent War.
It's easy to remember Jocko's name.
Yeah, he's another Navy SEAL. So on the next question, what was one of the biggest struggles that you've had to overcome?
Oh, man.
Like, could be on the oil rig, could be early on in real estate, could be something that happened last week.
You know, it's a tough question to answer because struggle is struggle. You know what I mean? And I think when it comes to speed bumps or roadblocks or just all out walls,
yeah,
it doesn't matter what it is, how small it is, how big it is, how dynamic or fuzzy it is. You have to bring the same energy no matter what. You have to bring the same focus and determination that you would bring on a large problem to a small problem. You have to attack those things with the same urgency. That's what I'm looking for. No matter what it is. And so I think it becomes a difficult thing to identify, what was big or small or because we attack them all the same. And with the same amount of energy, with the same amount of urgency.
I like it. And as far as one of the biggest or hardest hurdles that you see a new agent overcome, and then same thing for experienced agents, like when a new agent's getting in, what is one of those walls that a new agent might need to be prepared for that they might not know going in? And then maybe like 5-10 years down the road, are there any big hurdles or roadblocks or anything like that you see experienced agents run into that they might not see coming?
Sure. Here's the thing. Every single one of us is naturally going to be limited by our own experiences. And it's something that is really important that we just keep in mind in general, both for ourselves and for the people that we're having interactions with. So if up until this point in my life, I have my own ideas based on my experiences of what hard work is, right? Of what massive action is. I have my own ideas around what it takes to solve a problem or be successful. And I'll give you an example. I could, John down the street could think that he's, or Tim or Sean, or it's a make-believe person, could think that they are very busy, right? They could think that they understand what it means to really go all out and work hard towards a goal. And then they could put themselves in my shoes and realize that it's not so much a time thing as a capacity thing. And then I could think that I have a pretty good idea of what being busy is until I put myself in the shoes of Elon Musk or what's his name? What's the Amazon guy?
Bezos.
Right. And realize that this whole concept that I have of what it takes to successfully throw myself at it and be successful is 30% of what they've shown it takes in order to create the same sort of success. And whenever I sit down with a new agent, the first thing like we try to do is gauge what their experiences up to this point are, because their experience of hard work and maximum effort could be 150% of what I'm thinking, or it could be 20% of what I'm thinking. Just saying, you're going to have to work hard. Do you understand what that means? Isn't going to get you anywhere.
Yeah.
And so helping people recognize and understand the level of activity and the level of focus and determination that the level of organization it's going to take for them to be successful as a realtor in building a business is really, really important in the beginning. And it's tempting, and I see this happen all the time. Somebody's getting a real estate license and they go and they meet with brokers or brokerages or teams, and the teams aren't willing, or the brokerages aren't willing to be totally transparent, right? Because they want it to be sunshine and rainbows. They want it to be like, you're going to have a better experience with us. It's not going to be so hard. And what ends up happening is 90% of people fail in the first 2 years because they either aren't willing to, or they don't recognize the amount of effort they're going to have to put in to earn the opportunity to live like 90% of the people on this planet don't get to live. And I think it's so important that we continue to remind ourselves of that. 90% of the people, probably even more than that, don't control their time. They don't get to control when they go on vacation. They don't get to control when they go home, when they go to work, when they go to the bathroom, when they take a break, how much money they make, how much money they don't make. It is such a opportunity that we have. And it's so arrogant to think that 90 hours of coursework on the internet earns you the right to live that way, because it absolutely does not. Yeah. You have to earn it. And the thing that I see agents do is they quit and decide to go back to a W-2 or a 9-to-5 job because they weren't willing to even put in the 40 hours that they're going to be required to put in for somebody else in order to create an opportunity for themselves.
Yeah, it's crazy how people will do that. They'll work 40, 50 hours for someone else, but they won't spend 5 hours, 10 hours on their own business to try and get to that point. Start a side hustle.
And the reality is, if you want to earn the right to not have to go work 40 hours for somebody else, it's going to take a lot more than that.
Yeah.
It's going to take substantially more than that. And I think that's the key right there, is how much more. We don't know. For you, it's going to be different than it is for me. It's going to be different than it is for him, her, or the other person. When we don't know, which is a conversation we've been having on the team a lot lately.
Yeah.
We don't know. Like, the market changed. We knew what it was to be successful the last 3 years. We don't know what it's going to mean to be successful now. Do we want to get caught assuming that it's going to take less than it is? And you're in the same boat when you're a new agent. You can't get caught assuming that the amount of time and effort and activity that you need to put in is less than it actually is going to be. Always assume that it's more.
Yeah.
And as get up to your, like, this is my lid. This is me pushing myself. recognize it's a capacity issue, not a time issue, not a skill issue, not a mindset issue, and find ways to push past that. And assume it's not going to work unless you do.
Do you have any advice for being able to increase your capacity?
Practice. And capacity has been a big keyword for me just the last 12 months, because within my own organization, we've gone from a team of initially 2 to 3 to 4, and we kind of hung out in the 8 to 9 range as a group, including staff and all that, for a good period of time. And then while we were growing from 9 to 25, we also started a new brokerage in Idaho, and we also started a property management company, and both of those things have been growing rapidly on their own. And my capacity experience up to that point was not 3 times what it needed to be in order to do a good job at all of those things. In order to bring the same level of energy that I was bringing in one area, I had to grow my capacity, and I'm still doing that to this day. And I think that's another thing that I don't think ever, like, you ever get to your maximum.
Yeah.
But it just takes practice, and just like everything else, it takes being conscious of it, recognizing that most of the time it feels like a skill set. It feels like a time problem. And the reality is, you have to keep reminding yourself that this is a capacity problem. And you can solve capacity with 2 things: systems and people. And when you're at your capacity, keep practicing, make new systems, find new people. And you got to be willing to invest in people and invest in those systems, which is another thing that drives me crazy about real estate businesses. Is real estate business owners, team owners, broker owners, whatever it is, are very quick to invest in themselves, very slow to invest in their business at the level they need to in order to create the stability necessary for agents to be successful at a high level. I mean, you really got to take substantial amounts of the income that you're creating as an organization and creatively find ways to push it back into the organization itself before you start paying yourself at all.
Yeah, don't kill the golden goose, so to say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think people recognize that when they go to start their business, and they don't keep that in mind initially in the early stages as they're developing a model, as they're developing a business model and developing how that organization is going to run. And so they don't put the right policies and things in place that are going to give them the room to be able to continue to invest in the organization. And then they got to start skinnying up. One of the things I noticed, whether it's property management or real estate brokerages or mechanics, or everybody's racing to the bottom, right? Everybody's seeing how cheap they can get, how efficient they can get. When the consumer shows us over and over and over again that cheap is not what they're looking for. If you ask them, that's what they'll say. But the reality is they're looking for convenience, and they're looking for options, and they're looking for something that they're looking for a brand and an organization that what's the R word? That they feel
recognize.
Yeah, not recognize, but there's a relationship.
Yeah.
There, I forget what the word is. But yeah,
Similar to like how Amazon, even though stuff may cost more on Amazon, the fact that it can get delivered to your house, you're willing to pay a little bit more for that.
Absolutely.
Or DoorDash, Uber Eats. I could drive to the store myself, or I could pay someone $5 to go pick it up. You have the convenience, and you recognize the brand, and it's something that you can trust them with your money too. It's like, I'm not going to get my food spit on. They're not going to steal my stuff. So I like it. Yeah, a lot of people and organizations in general being able to reinvest in your people. It's huge. If you were 18 to 20 years old now, what would you do?
Crypto.
Crypto? Why is that?
Because it is obviously the future, and I don't think that anybody can argue that it's not. It'd be a tough argument.
Do you think crypto and real estate could ever get married someday? I think it might get married someday.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, in the way that's how the financial system is going to be built. So that's how you'll pay for things.
Yeah.
I could see things like title registration going to more of a NFT type platform.
Yeah, smart contracts.
Makes more sense.
Yeah.
And the other reason is because when you're 18 to 20, you don't realize how much time you have. You have so much time. And while I encourage people to have urgency and operate quickly and to push, I also want people to understand that winning comes from the compounding, right? It comes from doing the right stuff and the right activity over time. People, I mean, you hear it all the time. People underestimate what they can do in 5 years, and they overestimate what they can do with 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
And we get trapped on these like 1 year time frame trains of thought.
Yeah.
And we're constantly let down by those 1 year time frame.
New Year's resolutions,
chains of thought. Example. Right. We're not looking far enough into the future. Well, 5 years is like that.
Yeah.
It happens quickly. And I believe that any person on the planet today in this country can be in a completely night and day different situation within a 5 year time frame. They can go from like $500,000 in debt, living on the street, to $1 million net worth in 5 years. Absolutely. The tools are there, the resources are there, the time is there in order to accomplish that. And I think at that age, you have a lot of time on your side to slow down. The biggest bar to entry in crypto is the vocabulary. And the availability of resources to really dive in and understand what it is, how it works.
Do you invest in any crypto?
Not at the level that I should. And again, it's a vocabulary barrier.
Yeah.
More than it is a recognition of value. It's I'm so wrapped up in my time committed to the organizations that I'm building that I have not prioritized learning and understanding that industry at a high level.
Yeah.
And so when I say dabble, I mean like very basic Coinbase type stuff.
Toss in some money here and there.
Yeah.
Watch it go up and down. Yeah. Right. I think NFTs, crypto.
I think 50,000 or less into crypto.
Nice. You do Bitcoin, Ethereum.
Yeah. There's your standard
nice
stuff that is all worthless right now. But
someday it could be worth
but I am actively working towards I actually have calls set up all this week to fix that problem.
Nice.
Now that we've found some momentum, I can take an hour a day and solve that problem.
Yeah. I think someday, might not be soon, the smart contract space could completely revolutionize real estate, because we do all our contracts, we fill them out. You have your pictures, your 3D tours, which are kind of separate on a different website. If you could combine the title company with the smart contract, the 3D tour and the pictures is the imagery that you see, and the contract itself between two parties and the exchange of funds could all be extremely simplified in an NFT space.
The biggest clash in my mind between technology and real estate, as in the way that it's run today, is the fiduciary. And I it's a difficult point for me to get across because I'm a realtor. And so naturally there's going to be a tinge of bias. But I think it's also super important to overcome that, because the reality is our economy as a whole rides and dies on real estate, right? When real estate's down, everything's down. Real estate's up, everything's up. When it crashes, everything crashes.
Yeah.
It's massively important, and it makes sense because people build the foundation of their lives around their home, right? That's where their stability is. It's where their comfort is. It's where
their biggest asset.
Absolutely. And when you take, there's a big litigation happening right now, actually. It's been going on for quite a while, where the NAR is involved, and there's people who've sold their homes over the last, it started with one guy, and a bunch of other people have kind of piled on that have sold their homes within the last few years, that are suing the National Association, claiming something, and don't quote me, and do your own research, but something along the lines of, it is, they're claiming that sellers should not have to pay the buyer side commission.
Yeah.
And the fact that most real estate operates at a 6% is collusion rather than standard or market average, which is how I see it. And the way that it's the contracts are set up and the MLS is set up and the automatic sharing of 50% when sold is all, in their mind, evidence that this isn't fair. And the way they want it to be set up is sellers pay commission if they choose to work with an agent. Buyers pay commission if they choose to work with an agent. Here's a problem. We know that the economy rides or dies on real estate. We also know that while a seller is going to be motivated to pay a professional to market their property effectively and make sure that their sale happens in a way that no one's going to come back to them and sue them or come after them.
Yeah.
On the buy side of things, they're spending money. On the sell side of things, you're usually making money. When you're spending money, buyers are going to be way less motivated in order to hire an agent, because buyers, by and large, aren't doing these massive transactions very many times in their life, especially their first time.
Yeah.
And they don't know the built-in value that a fiduciary has for them on the buy side. People just don't know what they don't know. And until they experience buying a house without a fiduciary, without knowing that they're entitled to inspections, how important sewer scopes are, what the risk of radon looks like, where to look for mold, and problems with the home, how do I identify what is going to be a good investment for them and what isn't going to be a good investment for them. They're just going to walk blindly into these situations.
Yeah.
And end up with an entire generation of people who have bought houses that were not ideal transactions for them, that have faulty sewer lines and have all these issues, and that will erode the stability of the economy as a whole. It's a big deal, taking the fiduciary out of the transaction on the buy side. And so the way it is set up is smart, because if you build it in to the sale, it builds the fiduciary in for the buyer. And it's one of the smarter, although probably not naturally fits into a capitalistic model, but it's built-in protection for the economy for all of us.
Yeah.
And to that extent, I think they should make the bar higher to get into to be a realtor. I think 90 hours isn't close to enough.
I've always kind of had I don't know if it's just a thought or maybe it's just me, but in a way, the buyer kind of does pay for the realtor because they pay the seller through the loan. So they're paying monthly, like the commissions are built into the sale of the house already. Like if you go look at for sale by owners, a lot of times they sell a little bit below market average. So when you have that professional representation, the sale price is a little higher. Some of that money goes towards the realtors. And when the buyer's loan is funding, the seller getting their money, technically it's going through several different channels. But I mean, at the end of the day, the bank's paying the commissions and the buyers are paying the banks. So if you follow the trail all the way back, I mean, the buyers kind of pay not directly, but they're contributing towards the realtor's commission in and of itself.
Sure, absolutely.
All right. Well, I think that was awesome. I got a couple more questions. Have you heard of Tim Ferriss before? Tools and Titans, Tribal Mentors?
Mm-mm.
So he does tons of podcasts, interviews, stuff like that. A couple of these are just some good questions that I pulled out of his books that I thought would be good to go over. What is your most gifted book, or what are 1 to 3 books that you've given out quite a bit?
Easy. The first one is Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. By far, the most important mindset shift that a person can make is realizing how much their actions, their thoughts, their subconscious controls the outcome day in and day out of their lives. How much of an effect their attitude, their gratitude, and personally, I know for sure that the success that we've been able to create over the last 5 years has been 100% directly related to my mindset and my focus on maintaining that mindset. I think Kendall, Selling Ninja, is really great, just to help people recognize and understand the power of building relationships in a sales business and coming from a relationship-based perspective rather than transactionally. That's huge. And Simon Sinek, going back to, again, and these are all, it's a lot of mindset.
Yeah.
But start with why is huge, and then going straight from that into the infinite game. Those play really well off of each other. You did a great job. And I see people use skill sets as an excuse all the time. I'm not able to do this because I don't know how to do this, or nobody's taught me how to do this, or whatever it is. And the skill sets will come. They'll come all by themselves if you nail the mindset first.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing that we can do to help the people around us, our families, our friends, our coworkers, people that look up to us for leadership, is help them develop better mindsets around just day-to-day things. So
I like it. Have you read Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's great. And I think you talk a lot about leadership, and I feel like you are kind of one of those people, like all the stuff you said even on the podcast today, where you make sure you pay the organization first, you're not killing the golden goose, all that like really ties in with Leaders Eat Last as well.
Well, it's had a big effect, and I appreciate you pointing it out and noticing, because it is, it's massively important
and very rare
to me.
So when you see it, like you don't see it out there that often, where you truly do have an amazing leader doing, leading from the front.
Thank you.
Doing those things. What is the best purchase of under $100 that you've made in the past 6 months or in recent memory?
How much are earpods?
About 200, but close enough.
God, I love those things.
They're pretty nice.
They're the greatest.
Yeah, I'm sure you could buy them for around 120 to 150 as well.
Yeah. Honestly, the best like couple $100 purchase that you could make, if you're just getting up and going, would be an LLC. Because if you're doing the right things, getting around the right people, you're going to need it. And it's the building block that you, like, number one, in order to start building something for yourself. And so many people have a great idea, have time, know what they want to do, and they just don't start the business and start taking action. Get that out of the way. It's like my best friend. He has been absolutely head over heels in love with his now wife for years and years and years. Been chasing her forever. And we talk a lot, and there's this period of time where he's like, I want to ask her to marry me. I just don't know how to do it, where to do it, when to do it, what I should say, who should be there. And like this went on for a couple months, and finally I was like, dude, just buy the ring. Buy the ring. It could be the perfect moment, and you're shit out of luck because you don't have the tools that you need. So buy the ring, get it in your pocket, carry it around, and you'll know. And just taking that action, doing the right things, the universe moves mountains to put you to keep your path underfoot. If you're following a path of gold, even though there's a lake and two mountains and like the desert right in front of you, you keep walking, you see the end of the path, you believe that you're going to get there, those things will disappear. The seas will part, the mountains will move, the desert will rain, and you'll make it. If you have faith and you do the right things along the way.
Yeah, you got to prepare. If you're not prepared, best opportunity in the world could be right in front of you, but you can't capitalize on it because you didn't take the necessary steps to be able to do it.
Exactly.
Nice. How has an apparent failure set you up for later success?
Well, I'll tell you a story. Back when I worked as part of another team, I was in kind of like a sales manager type role. And the local real estate teams, owners, started getting together and meeting weekly to talk about what was working, what wasn't working, things like that. The owner of our team didn't want to go, but he let me go instead. And I thought it was great. Like I got this opportunity to meet with other people that owned real estate businesses weekly and talk about what they were doing as far as with their agents and lead generation and recruiting and all these things. And I felt like I was doing my best to contribute value, right? Because our team had been around for a lot longer. A lot of these were newer. And so I was sharing like the things that we had done or what wasn't working and like learned over a period of time. And this has been going on. So we're meeting like bi-weekly for a couple of months, like 3-4 months. And then one day, the owner of our team pulled me in the office and he's like, hey, just want to let you know, you're not going to be going to those meetings anymore. And I was like, why? What's going on? He said, well, really, I've been getting some feedback, and they're kind of like annoyed with you being there. They say you come off like a know-it-all, and they're kind of like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah.
I think he is, sort of a deal. And at the time, to be honest, I thought he was lying. I was like, no, you just don't like you don't want me to expand and grow.
Yeah.
You want to hold me back. Like what 25-year-old cocky kids do, right? And
I know how that is.
and I was distraught. Like, I was embarrassed. I was like, I didn't know how to feel about it, and super pissed and sad, and like, and at the time it's somebody you look up to and other people you look up to, and it was just like, it hammered me. And it screwed with me for 6 months. I was off my game. I was second guessing myself and unsure, and didn't know, like, having trouble communicating, and the whole nine. It was a mess.
Yeah, threw you off your groove.
Yeah, bad. And since I've grown and gone on to start an organization of my own, and nurtured a lot of 21 to 25-year-olds through that same period, where we go from $30,000 a year working at a retail store to $200,000 a year killing it selling houses in a span of a year and a half, 2 years. Understanding what it feels like to be in that position where you're young and you figured it out and now you know everything. And being able to talk through those experiences in a way that comes from understanding rather than judgment has been huge. It's an example that honestly I've used with people a bunch of times that go through similar things like that. And it sucked at the time, but it was a good experience looking back.
A little humbling.
Yeah,
looking back,
absolutely.
You're like, oh man. So every once in a while, you got to get kicked in the teeth.
Yeah.
All right. What is one of the most worthwhile investments that you've made? Could be time, money, or energy.
People.
People.
Yeah, 100%.
Investing.
I've invested the most in people. I have a theory that you should always overpay. I overpay every single person, whether it's the person that mows the lawn or babysits or runs operations, dials for leads, whatever it is. Overcompensate. If it's the right person, they'll recognize that and be driven to want to perform at a higher level. The wrong people don't recognize that, and they continue to want more and more and more. They see it as something that they're entitled to, rather than what it is.
Yeah, like a gift, and they should be grateful for it and want to reciprocate it back.
Yeah. And to me, it's my way of telling people that I know that it's my responsibility to invest in you and show you that I see you as valuable. And that puts the ball in their court to give themselves permission to be valuable. And sometimes you're wrong and it's the wrong person.
Yeah.
And that sucks. But most of the time, it works out exactly the way it's supposed to.
Nice. What do you think of Gary Vee's hire fast, fire fast?
I disagree dramatically. And then it's not just him. There's a lot of people that are hire fast, fire fast.
Yeah.
And especially in real estate, I don't like it at all. I think that this whole idea of hire fast, fire fast doesn't work. First of all, we have to slow down. way down. We need to show people that we are getting ready to invest not just in them ourselves, but everybody in the organization. I'm making decisions not just for me, my bottom line, my dollars, but the time and energy of all the other people who have trusted me to lead them towards their goals. They invest their time, their energy, their emotions into people also that become part of our organization. And somebody who just spent 2 months doing a 90-hour course online and is ready to hop in and try to sell homes needs time to learn, to understand, to figure out who they are within the industry and to try to build a business around their own. And a lot of times it's not even that far. A lot of times people need time and help to understand who they are as a person first. Sometimes they need help bringing out their own talents. Sometimes they need help bringing out, their own ideas around what's important to them and what's going to inspire them to want to be better in the first place.
Yeah.
And we got to be, you can't learn something like that about somebody or think that they're the right type of person that's going to be willing to embark on that quest quickly. That takes time.
Yeah.
And it takes questions, and it takes challenges and rebuttals and some back and forth before you can really identify if they're going to be the right fit for the organization. Not even the role, but the organization as a whole.
Yeah, I like that because I know Gary Vee is like super great and he will try and help people. Like I think he's good at heart, but that is always one thing where I was like, hire fast, fire fast seems a little opposite.
It's very popular in real estate too.
Yeah.
That's how most people look at it. And
yeah, get a new agent in, have them do their 4 deals and let them quit kind of thing.
Right. Put them through the stuff. If they fail, drop them.
Yep.
And if they fail, for me, when people in my organization fail, it's on me. And we've gotten away from that. We've gotten away from ultimate responsibility. To me, it doesn't matter if I didn't even know it was our client. I didn't even know they were under contract. I didn't even, totally separate, stand aside. Something happens, it's my fault. It has to be. If I'm going to expect ultimate responsibility from the individuals that are in my organization, I have to take ultimate responsibility myself, no matter what the situation is. If I leave here, walk across the street, and get ran over by a car who saw me coming from a mile away and sped up to hit me, that has to be my fault.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you weren't the one paying attention. You didn't dive out of the way. Even if it's blindside, I like that ultimate responsibility kind of falls on you no matter what. This one's kind of a fun one. What's an unusual habit or an absurd thing that you love?
I really like ice cream. It's a problem. I have this. It's like a nervous tick. I don't like if I hear something and I don't know it or don't know what it is or how it works or it's new to me. I have to know more right away. I have to I have to dig into it. I have this constant need to learn. I don't it keeps me up at night because it's just quiet brain freaks me out.
Yeah. And
so I got to keep filling with things in order to grow as a person. And to the extent where it's probably not even a healthy thing. It's not advice I'm giving.
You almost get compulsive over being able to go after and get to level 1 of a specific skill or something.
Right. Yeah.
Nice. In the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life?
the recognition of how important the relationships that we choose to be in and that we choose to seek out end up being in every aspect of life. I spend a lot of time purposefully curating the relationships that I nurture. I'm very proactive about it. And that's because I know that in order for me to grow, I have to continue to surround myself with people that are growing with me, that have grown far and above where I am, and opportunity to help other people pull up along the way. You got to be like this all the time.
Yeah.
Looking up to grab, looking down to pull. And that's something we work on as a team quite a bit too. I mean, we spend time on developing who's in our circle, who needs to be in our circle twice a year, so that we can, it's not just me and the people I surround myself with, but then those people are doing the same thing. And it's a compounding.
Have you heard of I don't know if it's a rule or a law, but it's like the rule of thirds, where you should try and spend a third of your time with people 10 years ahead of you, a third of your time with your peers, and a third of your time with people that are 10 years below you, or people that you'd like to see become your prodigy one day.
Sure, I could see that.
Yeah, I always thought that was a pretty cool idea. What are bad recommendations that you hear in your area of expertise?
I think the idea of growing and self-improvement and all that shit is great. More often than not, I see people buy into the idea and don't take the action. Massive action outweighs a new skill, a new development, new anything all day. And I don't see. A couple of years ago, another local team leader, Brandon Marchand, who has an awesome organization, a dude that I looked up to for a long time just because of who he is as a leader. And I remember having a conversation with him one day about another organization that was growing really, really fast. And I was like, isn't this cool? Blah, 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 what they're doing. And he said, it is, and I hope the best, but also beware of false idols. Really dig into the model, the business model that they're creating, and whether or not it's going to work. And I take that to heart because the team that I used to work for, as a matter of fact, was one of the kind of pioneering real estate teams in the area, and had created a lot of good numbers over a long period of time. And so what you see is a lot of newer real estate organizations, as they pop up, they look at that team and build their model after that, thinking, obviously it works, we should just do the same thing, build off that model.
Yeah.
What they don't see is what goes on under the hood. They don't see is the scarcity mindset between the agents and the administration. What they don't see is the constant needing to clamp down and tell people, no, it's okay. No, you do make enough money. Yeah. No, you do have enough leads. No, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're lucky and fortunate to be a part of our family and our culture, and on your own, this would be very difficult to do and way more expensive, and you probably wouldn't be able to do it. And they don't see those, problems that come up. And so, lo and behold, they start going and building and run into the same patterns of problems.
Yeah.
Because they're building the organization off of an idea of what something is rather than the reality And so that was a problem with Keller Williams for me, was the model itself and the religious way that they pushed model. And if you're building an organization outside of model, it was an issue.
Yeah.
And it felt like an issue.
Yeah, it's like if everyone's doing the same thing and there's no room to go outside the box, there's only so many clients that fit into that box. What about all the clients outside of the box?
And it's not just the clients. If everyone's doing the same thing and running into the same problems, and if everybody's taking that model and there's an obvious lid,
yeah,
the model probably isn't the way it should be, because all we're seeing is people get up, hit a spot, fall down.
Yeah.
Go hit a spot, fall down.
Yeah,
and
can't get past
constant
that
cycle. Right.
I hear you. All right. In the last 5 years, what have you become better at saying no to?
In the last 5 years, I've gotten a lot better at, and really, I have 2 very young children, and when I'm home with them, I don't want them to think of me as like working or distracted in any certain point.
Yeah.
And so I do keep those things separated. So I don't want, they're fighting over attention between them and my phone or them and my computer. You know what I mean? I want them to feel like they're getting 100% of my time.
Yeah.
And that is tough to do all the time. But it takes preparation and it takes like being purposeful about it. The other thing I've gotten really good at doing is saying no to the wrong relationships. No to someone wanting to be in a relationship with you is flattering, right? It's like, oh, well, cool.
Yeah, I'm so special.
Together, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that they're the right person to be in a relationship with, and that it's not going to negatively affect your growth or your ability to be impactful in the rest of your relationships. And identifying relationships along the way that at one time were mutually beneficial but are not anymore is also massively important and very difficult. Or finding ways to adjust the relationship so that it doesn't have the negative effect that it has been having. And again, that's a big one for most people.
Yeah.
Is getting better at organizing and curating their relationships.
You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Right.
So if you have one bad apple, one bad apple can ruin the whole bunch.
It brings you down.
Yeah.
For sure.
I like it. All right, last question. When you're feeling overwhelmed or unfocused, what do you do?
Honestly, I stop and take a break. Because when I'm overwhelmed or unfocused and like not there, there's kind of 2 trains of thought there. One side says, suck it up, do it anyway, right? Control your stuff.
Yeah.
Which I understand why you'd feel that way, to train your mind and your body and your state and all that. But to me, that signals a problem, right? It signals an issue in either what I'm working at or working towards. It signals a problem in my own motivation, that whatever it is that I'm chasing, that I feel like is massively, obviously I don't think is massively important, or isn't important enough to keep me excited and moving forward. And so I'll stop and think about it. And maybe it's just like an energy thing, and then I get right back to it. Maybe I'm going the wrong direction and I need to make an adjustment.
Yeah, I hear you. Awesome, Tyler. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, man.
Episode 5, Chasing Mastery. Make sure you guys check out the links down below. I'm going to have a link down to the Carlson & Co. Home Group website where you can check out homes from the Spokane area, as well as a link to Audible. If you guys want to check out Audible, it's $16 a month. You'll be able to get, I believe it's 2 books when you sign up, and then after that it's $16 a month. You get books. I feel like Audible's probably been one of the best investments I've made. Also found you can log in other people's Audible, get all their books, and I feel like that's an amazing resource that you can have just to help feed the mind, good information going forward.
Absolutely.
But I appreciate you guys staying tuned for the whole episode, and we'll see you on the next one.